So I think we'll make a start now. So good evening and thank you for joining us. My name is Michael and I am the workshop coordinator for the Reading Town Mill. Due to the pandemic this year, we are running these workshops as webinars instead of live in Thornbury Gardens where Reading Town Mill is usually held. This is the second webinar which we're running this week, and the other ones are listed on the workshops page on the Reading Town Mill website. So we're recording this webinar and we'll be uploading it to the Reading Town Mill YouTube channel. There is also a pre-recorded video of from the University of Reading about We Value Food, which will also be adding to the YouTube channel. If you've got any comments, please email the Town Mill email at info@readingtownmill.uk. I'll put it in the chat in a minute. So I'd like to welcome Reading Climate Action Network, and they will be talking this evening about our climate emergency plan for the next 5 years and what we can do to help. If you've got any questions, please use the chat function. So I'd like now to hand over to Tracy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael, and welcome everybody. It's lovely to be here, even virtually. So I'm going to kick off with a little introduction to the Climate Emergency Plan, and then I'll be handing over to some of the people who helped develop it along the various themes. So by day, I'm a sustainability consultant. I work for a company called the Claro.
Yeah, I think this was
in working. Sorry, can you mute yourselves if you're not presenting, just so we don't get any background noise. And then I volunteer as co-chair of the partnership. So there we go. So who are we? The Reading Climate Change Partnership was actually formed in 2007, originally part of the local strategic partnership, although that's no more. We were only one of only 2 surviving climate change partnerships at the time that the local strategic partnerships were disbanded. The other one's in Manchester. We're a multi-stakeholder group of volunteers, and we're supported by a part-time coordinator who's funded by Sunshine. We managed to get a small grant that we invested in solar PV panels when we were first established, and that gives us enough income to pay for a part-time secretariat. Reading Borough Council's part of our partnership. We have both the councillor and a member of Reading Council staff sitting on the board, but they don't control it. We do have influence over them, however, which is very useful. We've published 2 previous climate change strategies. Those were not published in the context of a climate emergency, but it's, it's fair to say that we have some established track record at developing climate change strategies and action plans for Reading, and it's very much something that is done by the people of Reading for Reading. So our vision is a climate resilient net zero town by 2030, and really that involves everybody who lives, works, studies or spends leisure time in the town. And the way that we've organised that is by looking at 6 vertical themes, and you'll hear from a few of them this evening. So we have water supply and flooding, transport and mobility, health and well-being, natural environment and open spaces, in low carbon development, and resources and consumption, each with their own specific action plan. There are some overlaps between them, but we've tried to address that in the way that we present the final plan. Those are underpinned by 4 cross-cutting themes on education, community, business and adaptation. And then sitting over the top of that, we have a communications and engagement plan that takes us out to the town. So the way that we've done that is each of those 6 vertical themes has a theme lead, and each of them is supported by a small task force that's been helping them to develop their part of the strategy and action plan. We kicked that process off with a public event for general citizens, and then later on, a couple of months later, we had another event that was specifically for businesses, and those were to invite people to bring their issues and concerns and their ideas about how we could combat and adapt to climate change in Reading. Then we published our draft plan for public consultation. Unfortunately, we chose to do that a couple of days before the country went into coronavirus lockdown. So the consultation period had to be extended because people were rather preoccupied with the pandemic in the early days. So that was extended until, I think, the end of August. And then we've been reviewing the feedback that we received and revising the plan. And we're getting ready to publish the final version on Tuesday, the 10th of November. We also retained a specialist consultancy to write the adaptation report. That's the first time that we've had an adaptation report as part of our plan. And then there's also been a small team working on comms and engagement, and I'm part of that team as well. So we've been developing a comms plan for the next 5 years, and we've also been working on an updated website for the Climate Action Network. So what is the Climate Action Network? It's basically communities and businesses coming together in Reading to tackle climate change. And we centre those activities on a website. You can see the URL here. And so the idea is that that provides a place where we present all the information about the climate strategy, and also we will be now launching a new website that will have lots of resources and tips and information that will actually help people to make the changes that are going to be necessary to deliver the carbon reductions that we need. Also really excited about the Reading Climate Festival. So this again is the first for Reading. We decided that in order to launch the Climate Emergency Strategy and Action Plan, we would like to run some events. And we invited people to bid for spaces in the Climate Festival programme. We have so far 40 events throughout the week, and we're still getting new requests coming in. So there'll be a week of free online events, and also some on-demand events where you can actually go to open spaces and follow prompts and guides to look around. And those are all being run in partnership with Reading Culture Live, which will be hosting the programme on its What's On website. So that should be launched early next week, and we're really very excited about it. So what can you do to help? So first of all, spread the word, please. Just tell everybody about us. Tell them that we have a group of people working on climate change in Reading, that we can be found at readingcan.org.uk, and please do go to the website, sign up to our mailing list, and that way we won't bombard you, but you will find out when there are significant events or new announcements. Please do attend the Climate Festival, and even better, apply to host an event, and you can find the link for the event on the Reading Can website, which contains an expression of interest form that you can. And then once we've actually launched the plan, we'd like as many people as possible to get involved in the Reading Climate Action Network and join in with our programmes, take action to reduce your individual emissions, and even consider the possibility of your organisation becoming a delivery partner and supporting us on delivering one or more of the actions in the plan. So there's plenty of opportunity to get involved. And why it matters is that there are actually significant co-benefits, as well as obviously the existential challenge of the climate crisis. Lots of the things that we do to combat that will actually give us benefits aside from saving the climate and making it more livable. We have the opportunity to invest in the local economy to build skills for green tech, clean tech, refurbishment to improve the quality of housing stock. All these things will create jobs. Some of the transport interventions will reduce congestion, improve air quality. We can focus on having healthier outdoor lifestyles and better diets. We can get quieter, safer streets, improved access to green space and nature, improved biodiversity, the benefits are really, really extensive. And so we believe that by taking concerted action on climate change, we'll be healthier, fitter, happier, our communities will be more resilient. So that's all from me. I'm going to let you hear some of the detail of the plan now. So this is very much a sneak peek because we haven't yet launched it, but you'll find out a little bit in advance of the rest of the town. If you would like to follow us on social media, you can see our various tags at the bottom of this slide, and I'll leave you with one of my favourite quotes from Sir David Attenborough. We're going to have another 2 speakers, and then we'll stop for a short Q&A session. So please do pop your questions in the Q&A, and I will be sharing the panel questions after the first 2 presentations. So I'm going to stop sharing and hand over now to Chris Beals, who's our ex-chair and head of the water.
Great, thanks, Tracy. I'm just going to go and find my presentation, if I can get to this. Ooh. Where are we? Okay, let's just go and share screen. We should have rehearsed this, shouldn't we? Where are we?
We definitely need music here.
Okay, now hopefully this will come through. Have you got my screen there?
Yeah, we've got it. Present right there, we can.
Grand. Can you see that?
Yeah, all good. Going to mute
Perfect.
yourself now.
Lovely. Well, hello everybody. My name's Chris Beals, as Tracy was saying. Yes, I'm a hydrologist from the Environment Agency and also a member of the Reading Climate Change Partnership. And as Tracy said, I, up until April, was chairing, so I was very happy to hand over to Tracy and Tim to take over the mantle as chair. Really exciting time as chair, helping to guide us towards writing the strategy. It's over now to actually delivering it. So it's really exciting that in November we actually have our long-awaited launch. As Tracy said, there's the Climate Change Festival, and in that festival, if you look out for an event, the Rivers of Reading, that'll be an opportunity for the water theme that I lead to actually talk about what we've got in the strategy in a bit more detail. But as a quick sort of preview to what we've got in there, we've got this quick presentation for 10 minutes on the water. So it's on water supply and flooding, and just show you our vision. So yes, this is something that's, yeah, visions tend to be a little bit of a seemingly just a wordy thing that you stick on the top of a strategy, but there's quite a lot in here. We're actually got some really high targets to be the best town in the country, essentially, aiming to be the most water aware and water efficient town in the UK, going beyond national targets. There's a lot in our vision about communicating climate change, communicating the needs to engage with the water side of climate change. And we've got both sides of the water spectrum to worry about when it comes to climate change. We're worried about low flows getting lower and also the increasing flood risk. I did look for a quote and I found one that, yeah, when it comes to climate change, most climate change impacts come down to water. It's the way that most people will actually start to experience climate change in their lives. So it's a very important thing. And yeah, so Tracy mentioned about the launch. There's a few photos here from the launch events. This was the launch for writing the strategy in June last year. And after that, we were developing the Reading Climate Action Network and the water theme, which I'm leading. Developed a lot of great new contacts. So the water theme includes members of the Environment Agency, members of Thames Water, Reading University, Reading Borough Council, Reading Hydro in there as well, along with a number of consultants, some councillors, and some active members of the community. And we need more hands. So if you feel moved to get involved, please do. And there's a link to the email address at the end of this presentation. So love to hear from you and get you involved in what we're doing. So yes, so the two sides of things, just as a prompt towards both the need to communicate climate change and also communicate water, and also talking about the low flow side of things as a poster from the presentation that Michael and I did a few years ago, helped to engage about the issues to do with water. Now, low flow is getting lower. You'll have noticed the last couple of summers have been particularly warm. We're expecting more of that with the changing climate. And you might not have been aware that we're actually in and out of weather, which is the precursor to drought in our incident response language. We have been worried about low flows, and the link between low flows and, of course, getting water into that water tower is basically our water comes from vastly from the River Kennet, in fact. But, so as those flows get lower, we need to really think about preserving our water supplies. So one of the major things we're going to be doing is getting people to understand why we need to save water, and that's from communities, households, businesses, schools, and local authorities, helping us to understand why we need to save, and also to focus on helping everybody make good choices. There's interesting timing. One of the lead members of our group was in the news today. I don't know if you caught the article about leaky loos, but Andrew Tucker was quoted in there talking about the amount of water that's disappearing down our toilets from leaking systems. So helping people to make good choices about that, helping people to maintain stuff in the house is really important. And there'll be things from the simple stuff through to more advanced thinking about the likes of rainwater harvesting and water recycling that we'll be looking into. Over this 5-year period, we're going to set a target, a 2050 target for Reading when it comes to water. You'll be pleased to know we're not talking about zero water, like our zero carbon target for the town, but we'll be trying to set a sensible target for everybody to work to. We've got things like concepts of water neutrality as well, which is very exciting for the town about how we're going to plan and help planners to develop things. And just a little note to say COVID-19, as that's come along, it's changed things a lot for us, a real curve with a lot of people. It's meant a massive increase in water demand, so we're going to have to watch that as we go. There's a lot to say about just learning about the pressures and what we can do about things. So there'll be lots of information posted up onto the readingcan.org.uk website to do. It won't take long from starting to think about not leaving taps running and taking shorter showers before you become like me, and when you see a tap running, it puts your teeth on edge. But taking things like shorter showers can make a massive difference as well to your energy bills in the house as well, because it's one of the biggest parts of the household carbon footprint. And for those of us that are lucky enough to part own a house, maybe the bank owns my house, but if you're making improvements to your home, think about installing some energy water efficiency measures, things like water butts, energy efficient washing machines, things like that. And in time, yes, getting a water meter is a really good idea. It's good to help you save. It's also good for the water company to really properly understand where the supply issues are. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is flooding. We have been relatively lucky in the town. We haven't had a major flood since 1947. We are at risk. The last time things were very dicey was in the winter of 2013-14, when communities downstream of us on the Thames did get flooded, but Reading didn't very much. There were a few houses that did, but there are hundreds of houses that are at risk from flooding. It's a big concern to colleagues of mine in the Environment Agency. So we do need to worry about that and do something about it, which is something we're going to try and do with the water theme. Being aware that flooding in the future, particularly with the winters that we expect and more intense rainfall, is likely to be on both more frequent and bigger floods. So there'll be a lot that we'll be doing about raising awareness, trying to get everybody at risk from flooding to get prepared, and also getting people who aren't necessarily at risk themselves to be prepared. We need the whole community to be prepared for flooding. As floods happen, they can interfere with transport links and actually have a big emotional effect on the town as well. So it's a really important thing we need to do. Other things we'll be doing is encouraging businesses and households to think about breaking up hard surfaces, as well as a local authority, and feeding that into the emerging plans that the Reading Borough Council and the like put together, so that we can break up those hard surfaces so the water can actually infiltrate into the ground. Tracy mentioned the adaptation plan, which is one of the things that I was really, really proud of as chair to kickstart for the town. We need to think about these things plug together. What we do to sort out the issues for the water environment are going to have knock-on consequences and benefits for other themes, particularly on the lines of health, the natural environment theme, transport, and potentially energy. If we don't sort this out, we could end up increasing our carbon footprint by needing to pump water. So those are the things we're looking at as a major league things. For yourselves, what can you do? Well, first things, we'll be sharing links to help you find this, but find out if you are at risk from river flooding, reservoir flooding, storm rainfall flooding. And also encourage, if you've got family or friends that may be at risk as well, to find out if they are. If you are in areas prone to flooding, we'll be getting links around, but do get yourself signed up for Flood Warnings. It's a free service available from the Environment Agency. And also, of course, as you point, if getting warned if you have no plan, so get yourself a plan there. So those are things that some of the top tips for the moment. And as I say, there'll be lots of resources to come. Thank you very much. As I say, links there, water@readingcan.org.uk. I think now I'm going to hand over to Paul.
And in a seamless way, you're going to control my presentation. Yeah. So I'll just do next every so often. Purpose of this one is just to remind me I've got 10 minutes, and my name's Paul Ducker, and I'm leading the resources theme. Next.
Oh, there we go.
I'll start. Oh, not yet. I'll start anyway. There are 3 questions that I want to try and cover. What have resources got to do with carbon emissions? What is the aim and approach of the resources theme, and what can... I'm still seeing the first slide. Is anybody else seeing a different one?
No, I'm still seeing the first one.
Cool. there we are. What's the aim and approach of the resources team, and what can individuals and communities do? First two are really just scene setting, not that far, but I want to spend most of my time on the final question. Stay with that one. So what have resources got to do with carbon emissions? In talking about resources, I'm meaning natural resources, the raw materials that the earth sees and natural environment give us or we take, and what we make with them, how we consume them, and what we do with them when we don't want them any longer. Next one. So in short, we live in a world of finite resources. For much of our relative insignificance in the grand scale of things has masked that fact, and it's just been a case of we can look at the wilderness and say, how are we going to conquer it? Similarly, nature cannot absorb our waste without limits. Single-use plastics is the most visible example. We're well and truly in the Anthropocene, a time of significant human impact on the Earth's geology and ecosystem. And our overconsumption also has a carbon footprint. Everything we buy, consume, discard has a carbon footprint, not just in terms of its use, but the mining of the resources to make it, the discarding of it, and if we discard the resources, the mining of new resources to go into it. So there's a massive, and there's a great book, How Bad Are Bananas? If anybody wants to delve into the carbon footprint of pretty much anything, that's the book to go to. So we need to set ourselves some limits, challenge ourselves to find ways to live within them fairly. For me, this is exciting, an invitation to innovate, a catalyst for good design. Next, please.
Yeah.
So what is the aim and approach of the resources theme? In a nutshell, it's that by 2025, Reading will be well on the way to becoming a zero waste circular town. Next one, please. So zero waste is basically shorthand for zero to landfill or incineration. It emphasizes those parts of the waste hierarchy, which you can see on the left-hand side, that prevent waste from getting to the point of incineration or landfill, but it's fundamentally still a linear view, just seeking to make the existing waste system more efficient, reusing and recycling more and better. The circular economy, which is the diagram on the right-hand side, and I'm not expecting you to be able to look at that in any detail. It's just the circles that I want you to sort of note. Challenges the idea that production processes are fundamentally a linear one of take, make, dispose. A circular economy is one that is restorative by design, and which aims to keep components and materials at the highest utility and value at all times. Next, please. So the overall goal of the theme is to speed Reading's transition to a zero circular economy. There are 4 strands: reduce, reuse, recycle, and rethink and redesign. It's worth stressing that this is a plan that it's hoped will grow over the coming 5 years. We've started with actions that partners have committed to lead, but hope that others will want to align their own actions, and that as momentum grows, we can be even more ambitious. So this is like a sort of a theme that is to grow as people get involved. The reduce, reuse, and recycle are about making the existing system more efficient. As I said, it's the side, the waste hierarchy side. So diverting food, clothing, and other things from the waste stream in the first place, giving people advice, information, so that they can find ways to reuse, repair, and share resources more. Recycling, making the system work better, giving people the advice and information that they need to address that. And then the rethinking and redesign is the opportunity to think and experiment at a systems level to address the wicked challenges like single-use plastic, the impact of what we eat, and encouraging large-scale behaviour change. And to support that particular sort of experimental strand, it's great that we've got a chapter of the Circular Economy Club. It's an international network that's established in Reading to bring people together who are particularly passionate and skilled in the circular economy. Next, please. Very briefly, to illustrate why I think the rethink and redesign strand is so exciting, I want to talk a bit about festivals, partly because I've missed out on talking about festivals most of the summer, and that's really hard, but also because I think that for all their failings, they're organisations that are continually experimenting and a perfect crucible for testing out new approaches to sustainability. In Reading, it's easy to see festivals only through the lens of unforgivable waste. I think that's a bit of a mistake. So I'm going to move on to the next slide, because I think they are also massively creative and continually innovating, and both through necessity, but also through mission. Shambhala, their strapline is Adventures in Utopia. So this contains a few examples of some of the ways in which festivals have recently been experimenting. On the left-hand side, Hunter has a little sign telling you that the plants are partly fed with compost made from 5-year-old poo from the composting toilets above, which is a neat circular, and immediately you go away thinking, oh, okay, interesting. Also, festivals have been providing water refills, refillable cups, closed loop cup deposit schemes, waste separation, green police. I'm not sure we're going to go down that route. And the Green Europe Experience is a group of festivals coming together to experiment with food and scenery, how they can sort of make a circular economy around those. So moving on. So finally, what can individuals and communities do? It's important to stress that address the challenges I've outlined can't just be about individuals and voluntary community action, but we can all easily start there. At the same time, we need to be pushing and encouraging action by governments and business. And to be fair, there are encouraging signs. In some areas, business is actually leading the way, and that's really good to see. But we need to sort of keep them on their toes. We need to sort of use our individual and community power to reinforce those directions. Next. So just 3 ways I've focused. Deep down, we know we all buy and throw far too much perfectly good stuff. So one of the things we need to do is find ways to cut out waste, reduce, reuse, repair, share. And part of the strategy, part of the plan is to provide more information. Reduce, perhaps question whether I need to buy something, consider renting or sharing. In some areas, libraries of things have popped. Our sharing is becoming much more acceptable. Buying pre-loved clothes. That's why I'm wearing this shirt. This is my pre-loved festival shirt from last year. Reuse, buy and carry a refillable water bottle. I have mine here. Instead of buying throwaway water bottles, I think that's pretty much accepted now, funnily enough. Carry a usable coffee cup, take your own bag. Oh, that tells me I've got my 10, so I'll have 1 more minute. And then buy for longevity, get stuff repaired. Also support retailers and manufacturers that are on the same journey. True Food, Myers Refillables, Risks Refill Shop, which opens on Thursday, M&S, Schwapping, Supermarket Experiments. Next, please. Become a knowledgeable recycler. Do you know what you're throwing away? This is some analysis that Reading and RE3 did to actually to support the food waste collections. I also think 32% is still quite a lot to be going to general waste at the end. But interestingly, some research came out a bit earlier this week, I think, which was from Keep Britain Tidy, which indicated they looked at why so much was going to recycling was contaminated, and it was quite often the enthusiastic recyclers that were putting the wrong things in the recycling because they thought it should be recyclable. The 32% is realistically the bit where the circular economy design community can really add value. Next, please. And it's not just about individual action. Here's some of the things that are going on in Reading. Caversham is the first Reading community to commit to becoming plastic free and getting the Surface Against the Sewage accreditation. Reading Borough Council passed its own plastic ocean. There's Refill Reading coffee cups in there, the Refill network of water refill. Circular economy, we've also already mentioned. Ethical Reading has started a sustainability champions network. Perhaps the challenge for all of us is to connect and do more together, and maybe some joint campaigns. Final slide, please. I also say, finally, back to the individual action. Be a champion. Start by doing what you can in your own life. Nothing's too small. The important thing is to make a start, but also share the knowledge that you have with an enthusiasm with others. That may mean getting involved with other people in a local group, but equally it can just be about offering encouragement to a friend, showing them how to refill a water bottle in one of the networks. Enthusiasm is infectious, along with the hope that comes with taking practical action. So get involved.
Thank you very much, Paul. I have been monitoring the Q&A, and I'm going to take Chair's privilege and answer a couple of them quickly myself before opening one of them up. We are running a bit tight for time, and we're keen to let you all get away at 8:30. So we've had a note in from Debbie Shaw to say worth remembering that Risk are starting a refill shop on Thursday. So that's the first time we'll actually have a fixed refill shop in the town centre. So that's good to know. And she also asked if she could find out more about Circular Economy Club. So I'll let you all know that Reading Circular Economy Club is listed on circulareconomyclub.com, or you can look for Circular Economy Club Reading on LinkedIn and in the group. And then another quick question about how to find out which event in the Climate Festival will specifically reveal and find the new strategy. That will be the launch event, which is at 3 o'clock on the Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday the 10th of November. So that's the official launch for the strategy and action plan. And then throughout the week, all the other events are there to inspire you about how you can take action. So the question that needs a answer, I'm not sure who to pass this to. Tony Goodchild says, we bought our house with a tarmac driveway. What's the best way to improve the drainage? A rain garden? Digging up part of the tarmac, replacing the tarmac with bricks, or what? So is that one that you would like, Chris, or is there someone else on our panel that would like to answer it?
Just to say on that one, Tony, we will be trying to dig in and get some good answers and some good solutions to those things as we learn about it ourselves as the water theme group. I mean, the key thing is it's trying to break up that hard surface so that the water as it lands on that will trickle down into the ground rather than running off and going down the drain. So there are things that can be done. But yes, the principle is to actually just break that hard surface up somehow. But also, if you're needing a drive there, making sure that it's going to work as a drive as well.
Thank you, Chris. So moving swiftly on, it's now 8:15. So I'm going to hand over now to Tony Cowling, who is one of our energy and low carbon development team leads, but he's going to talk to you specifically about Reading Hydro this evening.
Chris, can you unshare your screen? Thank you.
Okay.
I'm going to start talking. Thanks very much, Tracy. Tony Cowling here from Reading Hydro. I do several other renewable energy projects around the place, but Reading Hydro started probably 5 or 6 years ago with an idea kicking around in some of the green groups and eventually launched in the form of Reading Sustainability Centre and managed to get £20,000 plus grants from various organisations to get the project going. And then we've handed over to Reading Hydro, which is a community benefit society, and they could raise funds by share offer. So we've now raised the money to build Reading Hydro. Have you got my screen yet or not, Trish? No.
I haven't got anything.
Don't worry, I can just talk.
But it will come.
So the scheme has to be economic for it to be able to happen, and it is now economic, which is pretty remarkable because feed-in tariff has gone down quite a lot since we started thinking about it. Initially, we had £80,000 a year coming out of the project, which would pay for a modern museum of all things green and eco in Reading and a manager for it and all sorts of other things. Now we're struggling to make ends meet, but we will be, if things go well, we'll be donating money to local charities in the same way as some other people, probably £120,000 in the next 20 years. And those will be mostly green charities. So I think we're on brief history. And the current timescale is the last bullet point on my brief history slide. And we have actually started work, which is amazing. So if you go down to the river, you will see things happening. That's going to be the next one, please, Tricia. It happens right there is where the hydro goes at the northeast end of Caversham Weir. Next slide is a better picture of it from kind of looking from the ground. And with photographs, you can really easily build a hydro very quickly. So we've done one. Next. It's a kind of mock-up of what it will look like. It will actually have a turbine house just behind it, which is not shown on that photograph. But that's the, and it will also be considerably further to the right than that photograph shows. That's an old photo. But that's what we're aiming to build, 2 Archimedes screw turbines, generating 300 out of 365 days a year green electricity right in the middle of Reading. And the power will be sold to a local consumer and the excess will go back to the national grid. Next slide, please. Done it all, Environment Agency permissions, local authority, planning permission, EA, Environment Agency licenses, fish pass design approval, quite a difficult thing to get. Public share offer, we've gone through the detailed design and we're almost complete with that. So construction happens. We hope to be commissioning around Easter time next year. And we need to generate, next slide, before September 2021, or that's some of the grants that we received. Local charities, a really good early charity gave us money, Reading Climate Change Partnership gave us money. You can look at them yourself. They'll probably get the slides. Next slide, please. And so, yeah, connection to the grid. We're going to connect to the grid through the local supplier. So I've done that one, all right. Mechanical and electric M&E generating by Easter, and there'll be a formal switch on around that time. Probably it'll be slightly after Easter because the river's bound to flood and we'll get delayed. And then after that, we have to run and manage the project in the future, which will mean sharing out our income from the feed-in tariff and from sale of electricity between our shareholders, and the directors don't ever make any money out of this. We're not allowed to sell it. We're not allowed to profit in any way from the scheme. So any profits will be applied to the local community through grants, which I explained earlier, and investors get back their interest plus their capital over 20 years. So I wear rose-tinted spectacles. The project looks really good and I'm really happy it's happening. I think that might have been the last slide. Let's see. Yeah, thanks very much, folks. So I've rattled through that very quickly. You'll have to ask questions to get me to tell you more, and you can't do that audibly, but you can through the chat boxes. I might even better see them. But I think the questions get vetted before I get to see them. Thank you.
Right, I'm taking over now. I'm Tricia Marcuse and I am in charge of the Nature and Green Spaces part of the Climate Action Plan. And I am going to rattle my way through most of my presentation so that we can pick up a bit of time. I've got main themes of the action plan written down, but I want to concentrate on what I think is relevant to the town meal week, and that's how we provide more meals for wildlife and for soil organisms in the town. So our sub-theme, first one, most important obviously, is carbon sequestration, and that includes the thing which everyone gets in the national press of increasing tree cover. All political parties are absolutely determined to outbid each other on how many trees you can plant in the UK. I'm not knocking that for any reason at all, but in addition to what carbon is stored within a tree, you also have to think of at least 50% of the possible storage is actually underneath the ground. Yes, it's in the roots, but it's also all the soil microorganisms that are building carbon there. So managing the land to store more carbon is important, as well as planting more trees. We could also look at the use of biochar and charcoal, which is actually taking carbon, sticking it in the ground and expecting it to stay there for much longer than the natural carbon cycle, where things use carbon, they exhale CO2. There's a general movement of carbon through trees, down to the roots, into the ground, being used by microorganisms and then go back into the atmosphere again. It can be stored longer as biochar and charcoal. Where we would make this in Reading is an interesting point for the future. You will have noticed throughout the town that there have been this year new verges and roundabouts where they're letting the grass grow longer, they're letting wildflowers develop. There's 30 test sites in Reading this year. The council have recently put in an order for grass cutting machines that will actually collect the mowing, so the nutrients can be taken out of some soils and wildflowers will be able to develop. Crucial on that is what you do with the grass that you've actually taken off, and again they have plans for this. So things are happening there. Kennet Meadows is a beautiful example of a piece of wild open space pretty much coming into the centre of Reading. One option is to look at it as flood storage, but from the point of view of carbon sequestration, to keep a water surface over the ground all year round, because the most loss of carbon dioxide is if that soggy ground dries out, whereas soggy ground on the whole, like peat bogs, will store carbon. But there's also the wider part of Kennet Meadows going right out to the east and almost getting towards joining up with the Thatcham reed bed system, which is managing this grassland in an optimal manner. And that means getting all of the landowners on board, which may or may not be possible, but the work has started. Finally, yes, there's going to be a food waste collection scheme, but our little group would say, think about your food waste and feeding your soil instead. Some of you will not find that possible, and that's perfectly fine, but you could make soil food from your food waste. So that's to feed the living things in the soil directly and efficiently. And the method we're promoting is a fermentation system. It stops the food decomposing, it preserves the original energy, and it renders the material unattractive to vermin. So the soil creatures consume the food and they provide nutrients for plants to take up, and they will also keep carbon out of the atmosphere for a while. As I said, this is a cycle. You can't keep it into the ground forever unless you store it as something like solid carbon. At the moment, these are the sort of bins you can buy, and they're on special offer through the RBC Get Composting website. So you can get 2 bokashi bins, which have got a firm fitting lid, a tap for drain excess liquid, which can be put on the ground. You fill up one in your, then this picture is just to show you the sort of size they are. So you use one after the other. They're about 20 quid, including postage and packing, at a special offer at the moment. And how to use them has been done in huge detail by Malcolm, and we've got an information sheet with all of the pros and cons, and also something about other methods of dealing with food waste on the Reading Can website under Feed Your Soil with Food Waste. Next, sub-theme 2, supporting that. The most important one of this really is the thing I put in bold. The legal position now is if you are a developer and you are obviously going to have an impact on the biodiversity on your development site, at the end of your development, you have to have increased biodiversity by 10% more than when you started. You may be able to do that on your own site, although that's highly unlikely in the central town, or you might try and do that, pay for it to be done on another site within the town. For me, it is really important that the Borough Council takes the lead here and identifies sites where things can be done, so that compensation is done in a logical manner across the town, rather than the developer saying, that's the cheapest option I could do, that's what I want to do. Planting for biodiversity and resilience. Part of this is, how do you make the change? So the reducing hard standing issue is one of them. We've started on this because every bit of wildlife wants a home, somewhere to live, somewhere to breed, something to eat. And this nice picture up in the corner was when we were actually making a bee box down in Newbury one day, and the bee turned up before we'd finished making the box. So fact sheets and guidance are coming to the website over the next year. Some will be pointers to existing sources, so we don't reinvent the wheel. By the end of this week, there'll be guidance for selecting and planting hedgerows for wildlife and for your benefit. Next month, it's trees for small gardens, etc., etc., etc. For green spaces for cooling and well-being, well, this is the infrastructure across the town, but also if we're going to have hotter summers, then shade to enable people to continue going outside. And finally, community and engagement and raising awareness and providing an advice service. Well, we started on this as well. So I was dealing with a residents association this afternoon about creating a new wildflower meadow, some coppice and a roadside rill of bulbs. We're talking with some businesses and schools. So please, if you have ideas to share, you're a business or school in need of help, contact us, offer to help, offer to use us to help. nature@readingcan.org.uk. Thanks a lot.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Trish. And you've done very well to bring us in about 2 minutes before our scheduled finish time. So thank you for that.
Tracy, can I just intervene there? So
yeah.
I want to stop the recording to make sure it actually saves this evening. So I'd like to say thank you to Trish, Chris, Tony, Paul, and yourself, Tracy, for a very informative and interesting presentation. So we can carry on for question and answers. Thank you.